Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Lloyd and I source cars for people on a professional basis. Although most of the cars I source are between £1,000 and £5,000, very often I've been asked to show something a little bit cheaper on the channel, and so I came up with No Budget Reviews, the series where we look at cars that you can buy in good condition with an MOT for under £1,000 and you can enjoy driving. We don't film this in an expensive manner, we don't use separate microphones, we don't use fluid head tripods, we don't even use a DSLR, but we do have a lot of fun. Sometimes I am truly amazed at what £1,000 will actually buy you, and this is one of those moments. This is a 2007 Renault Twingo 1.2 TCe GT. Now, you can't buy this exact car for that kind of money, but you can buy lower spec Twingos or perhaps one of these that's not as in good condition for that sort of money, and hence why it's appearing on No Budget Reviews. The Mark II Twingo was made from 2007. This is a really early car. We think this is one of the first imported to the country after all the press cars. It dates from September 2007 till 2014. Initially they were made in France, but then they were made in Slovenia, in the same factory where they used to make Renault 5 Campus that you would have seen on No Budget Reviews sort of towards the end of last year. The Mark I Twingo was a car actually my grandfather's cousin owned. It was a French made, I think, virtually all of them, but they were not made in right-hand drive, so never officially sold in this country. The Mark II and Mark III Twingos were sold in this country. This is probably a little bit more conventional, I'd say, than some of the Mark I Twingos, with there's sort of green bits on the interior and things like that. Although it's still a bit crazy. I mean, if we go inside here, we can see we haven't got a conventional dashboard in here, really. It's far more sort of idiosyncratic than that. So we've got a rev counter up here. The sort of models below this, so some of them don't come even with a rev counter. A lot of bits in here look very familiar from sort of Renaults of this era. This looks like a stereo out of the Renault Traffic. That instrument cluster there looks like it was inspired by the Mark I and Mark II Toyota Yaris, actually, and these look like they're out of, I think, a Mark III Clio. Nothing wrong with that, of course. I mean, it's a question of keeping the cost down of things. These indicator and wiper stocks, I think, are out of a Mark II Clio, and these controls here, my gosh, they've been used on Renault models for a long time. 5-speed manual gearbox in this GT model. It has a 1.2 litre engine generating about 100 horsepower in this. There was a more sporty one available, which was the Renault Sport Twingo 133. This car has the big sunroof, which was a really popular feature of the Mark I Twingos. The dashboard looks like it's going to be soft touch, but it actually isn't. And there's a little compartment just there for, I don't know, putting things. I mean, I can put my phone in there, actually. That one. There we go, that sits quite nicely just in there. Got climate control in this, which is quite fancy, really. I think I'm going to try getting into back view. That's what I'll do. And we can have a look at some secret mission document storage a little bit later. Right. One of the things that I've learned about this car is the fact that ESP wasn't available until I think it was after the facelift in 2012, unless you went for the Renault Sport 133. Don't ask me why. Anyway, let's see if we can get in the back. Ooh, got quite a lot of room in here. I mean, these seats are in the position for maximum space for the rear passengers. If I just pull this seat back, that's not bad actually. We can move that forward and get rid of some of my leg space. But there's still enough room. I mean, this seat is set up for Ellis, who owns this car. He's probably taller than me, actually. And I've got enough room. The main problem is this glass roof, and I'm actually hitting my head on the sunroof. And if I move it down a bit, it hits the back of the sunroof aperture. So that's not going to be particularly comfortable. I'll have a look in a second and see if he's actually reclined, see if I can get a better angle. That's not bad for a little car like this. It's not bad. I'll put that seat a little bit back, but then I hit the sunroof aperture even more. So I think I might have to recline out or something. Got door bins either side of here. It's only a 4-seater, like actually a lot of these little cars are. Something like a 107 or a C1 or an Igo, or even things like the Volkswagen Up and say at me and Skoda Citigo. They're all only 4-seaters. It's very light in here. It's probably the sort of airiest feeling of all of those, particularly with the sunroof. Although despite the fact these blinds are sort of here, if I have that, it's gonna be even worse. Right, let's have a look in the boot. This car is so small, I don't think you really need to worry about reversing cameras and parking sensors, things like that. It's absolutely tiny. With the seats in this back position here, I think it's under 200 litres, but if I move that forward, there we go, you can just do it from here. And you can actually, I think, tumble that forward even further. We get something like 250 litres, I think, in this. There we go. One thing I'm not entirely sure of, and I'll just have a look under here, see if we've actually got some kind of spare wheel. Yes, we do. Brilliant. So you can have this reasonably large boot for the size of the car, and you can also get a spare wheel. That's pretty good. I said I'd say as well, if these seats reclined, and they actually looks like they actually do with this lever just here. I mean, it's a bit difficult with one hand, but if I recline that a little bit and sort of lean back, we'll get Alice to demonstrate this.
So they don't recline back very far. So obviously, I think it's basically just so you can fold it forwards. So that's sort of as far back as you can recline, which is definitely fairly reclined. But then once it's sort of folded forwards like this, push the driver's seat forward so I can show you. And then you push the seat forwards, and there's these little red things under here. You just pull up, and it dislodges the seat, and you can fold it forwards like that. So you have actually a very large, very usable boot space.
You know, normally on something like No Budget Reviews, I don't get a chance to do this because it's impossible to do this kind of thing on your own and film it. But as you can see, we've got a very practical car here indeed. And I'll let Ellis put that back.
Yeah.
So,
you don't really have to be too careful with it. You can just sort of drop it back into place, and then it's, you know, nice and stable.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's that easy.
That's a very practical car indeed. The only thing is, I don't see any form of like load cover in him. But I've looked at some footage of these cars on the internet. I don't think there is like a load cover for them.
Well, there is. Well, there is. Yeah, just a cover that goes across there. But the thing is, because the seats go so far back, it's really thin. And the one I had, this car, is only done 88,000 miles. But it's sort of like bowing in the middle, because I don't think it was very well supported.
Yeah, that's probably why I haven't seen one of these. It's probably most people have thrown them away because they're not actually that useful. Right, let's go and take a look at the engine. Actually, before we do that, I mean, the release is just there for the bonnet. I'll just see if we can get the secret mission documents in. Actually, it's not bad. I mean, it's much better than some of the modern French cars are, where they don't bother to move the fuse box, and so you have to have half a glove box. But that's not too bad. I'll let that pass. Is it in there as well?
It is, yeah.
My gosh, it's behind. Oh, yes, behind there.
Yeah.
God, so you can actually have a fuse.
More space that goes in further back.
So you can actually have a fuse box and a glove box at the same time.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Right, let's have a look under the bonnet. These little door handles remind me of something, I don't know, like a Peugeot 106 or something like that, the 3-door versions.
It looks like they should work like a Peugeot 106, but they just kind of don't.
Yeah.
Very strange door handle.
It's just the way that it goes. Right, you wouldn't mind opening your bonnet, sir, because it's very difficult for me to do that one-handed.
Yeah.
So this is the D4F engine. It's actually the same engine that was in the earlier Dacia Sanderos we got in this country. That was the base engine, and it's also the same engine that came in the Proton Savvy. So it's exactly the same engine. This is the turbo version of it though.
D4FT.
D4FT, which does 99 horsepower. It's quite easy to sort of see things like the washer fluid. There's the dipstick, typical Renault, which is a sort of weird one.
Yeah.
And then there's the old filler cap. It's a bit cramped in here. I mean, you'd have to do quite a lot of work to sort of get to various bits, but it's a really small car. So
it doesn't help that the turbo and obviously the exhaust manifold and everything, it's towards the back of the engine. So I know from experience on cars like this, it's a bit of a pain to get to if you need to replace a turbo or a seal or something, you know. This
is also a cam belt engine, and obviously, you know, you've got to do that at some point. So that would be a bit of a job in this, but it's pretty typical for the sort of size. I do like these little GT logos here on the side of the front fog lamps. It makes the car look quite smart, but I've seen lower specification versions of this and they don't really look quite as nice. Right, I think it's time to go for a little drive. So here we go, Twingo GT. It feels very responsive. The base engine in this car was the old D7F 1.2 engine, but it was an 8-valve unit and generated just 60 horsepower. One up from that is the non-turbo version of this engine, 75 brake horsepower D4F. I drove that in a Renault Clio on Tweed jacket reviews earlier this year, and it was a real disappointment. A very, very underpowered car. Up to 60, that was like 15 seconds. This is a bit lighter, so it would feel a little bit better. However, this isn't just the D4F, this is the D4FT, which generates 99 horsepower, that has a little turbo on it, and it feels really nice and responsive. It's very weird having the rev counter right in front of me and the speedometer just over to the left like that, like in an old Mark 1 Yaris. One thing I'm noticing though is that the suspension in this car is a little bit firm, and of course that means the mount is wobbling around everywhere, and it means it's probably not the best experience for you viewers, but unfortunately that's just the way that it goes on No Budget Reviews. There were also, of course, some diesels, but as usual we don't talk about diesels on this channel. You thought I'd forgotten to talk about the Renault Sport Twingo 133 viewers, but of course I haven't. That has a 1.6 litre engine which generates 133 horsepower. That's a car that Jeremy Clarkson famously sort of faked crashing into the sea off a ferry, or rather trying to get a ferry, and it's a car that also James Martin from JM Cars has also covered. This one though seems to be a good compromise. I don't know about the suspension, it feels just a little bit too firm for me. So perhaps I would like the standard suspension with this engine, but it's so much better than the non-turbo version. The steering is quite good. The wheel is pretty large. It's a pretty massive wheel in this car for some reason. Don't know if the 133 also has this big one. Looks like we're going to have to wait a while, viewers, so we shall come back to you shortly. Right, viewers, I'm pleased I'm in this Twingo today rather than something else going down this road. We're almost at the bottom of the hill anyway, so we're okay. Yeah, the gearbox feels quite nice in this. I mean, I've driven a lot of older Renaults, and this is a more modern one, and the gearbox is a lot better. Steering feels quite accurate. I'm not sure if this is an electric or a hydraulic steering setup in this car, but it feels very, very good. It's just perfect for a nice twisty road like this. No Mr. Quirk from Planet Auto lives just round the corner from Alice, and so regularly see this road being used in tests and things, and I can see why. It's a good road, and this car is handling it really well. So yes, the clutch feels good, brakes are pretty good. It is just drum brakes on the back, but it doesn't seem to be too much of a problem. Just put it into this corner and level across, it's going to bump. Oh, bit of camera shake there. Oh, speaking of Mr. Quirk from Planet Auto, what's that doing there? Hold on a second, viewers. I think we've found something. Yes, a Nissan Navara with an engine that I can't talk about on this channel. I see. Right, Mr. Quirk appears to have indulged in some enthusiastic driving. The hiccup with the engine that we can't talk about has disappeared, so we go back over the level crossing. Well, that steering's actually pretty good. That steering's nice and accurate. Oh, we just passed him. Unfortunately, because of the camera angle that I have to have this at, you can't actually see it, but he is going to go in behind us. It's a surprisingly good little car, this. I don't know what I was expecting, really. I don't know an awful lot about these, but I quite like it. I don't know if I'd like the non-turbo versions of this particularly, but I like this one. I just wish the suspension was a little tiny bit softer on it. Apart from that, it seems pretty good. Let's go back and look at some Twingo trim levels and come to some conclusions. Well, viewers, the Mark II Renault Clio. I've had quite a lot of fun with this little car. I don't know what I really expected. I mean, there's not many reviews of these out there. The last contemporary one, as I said, is one from James Martin and JM on Cars. But let's just look at some of these trim levels though for the Mark II Twingo. Bisou, spelt not in the way that I would spell bisou in French, because I do have a French degree, viewers. I don't like to talk about it too much, but I do. Dynamique expression, iMusic, pizzazz, spelt wrong. Extreme, freeway, the Gordini. You know, Gordini could be interesting. The GT, and then the Renault Sport 133. Personally, I would like a car of this era to come with ESP and curtain airbags, and this car doesn't have either, and I don't think they were really something you could get until really about the sort of facelift, unless you're talking about the 133s. I could be wrong about that though. But yes, I've quite enjoyed this little car. Thank you again to Alice for providing it for the channel. Thank you again for watching this episode of No Budget Reviews. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more. Don't forget to like this video and to leave a comment below. It really does help the YouTube algorithm to see these videos more. Social media links are down below, and if you were to turn notifications to be informed of when new videos go live, that would be great too. Thank you ever so much indeed again for watching.